Hi guys. Oh, no, that's not gonna work, is it? Okay, hold on one second. I'm trying really hard. Oh, I have a better idea. Just one. Okay. That should work, I guess. Okay, let me explain to you what's happening. My computer is like freaking out, okay? The entire screen is glitching and it is making my head hurt like a crazy amount. So instead of doing a history PowerPoint today, I'm really sorry, but I'm just going to have to read to you your pages. So please get out this page, okay? It says the Assyrian Empire on it from your history book, and it's page 38, okay? So please get that paper out. Ooh-wee, man. Yeah, I wish I could show you what this screen looks like. But anyway, I'm gonna cover the screen up with my book, and you can hopefully still see me, okay? All right, so I just wanted to go over your comprehension check with you first. You guys did a good job sending in your audios for that. So the best known god of Canaan, the best known Canaanite god was Baal, and he's the god of war and storms. The Canaanites did not leave important gifts to civilization because they were so busy with wicked practices, they had no time to have accomplishments, okay? The leaders that God chose for the Israelites were called judges. Number 4, after Saul, Israel's first king, disobeyed God and failed, God appointed David. Number 5, King Solomon built the great temple at Jerusalem. And number 6, Israel fell again and was split into 2 kingdoms. The northern kingdom was called Israel, and the southern kingdom was called Judah, okay? All right, so now we're in 3.8, so make sure you have your notes ready to go. Just write down the important stuff. That's all you need to do. Okay, all right, 3.8. Make sure you say out loud all of the dark words with me and the underlined words if we have some, okay? 3.8, the Assyrian Empire. In the rolling hill country near the source of the Tigris River, about 500 miles northeast of Canaan, lived the Assyrians. I'll show you a map here in a minute. Assyria was not a large area, but it was located on fertile, well-watered land. Its capital, Nineveh, was a great city. Okay, and we can read about Nineveh in the Bible in the book of Jonah. Okay, so in your book, turn to page 24, and we have this map here, okay? In this map, we have the Mesopotamia, the Fertile Crescent right here, okay? We have Mesopotamia, and north of Babylon is the region of Assyria, not Syria. It's different. Assyria is a completely different country. Okay, and the huge city of Nineveh. Nineveh was a very, very wicked city, and we're going to continue to read about that. So get your book back out to page 38, and let's keep reading. Okay. Feared conquerors. Around 750 BC, that means 750 years before Christ was born, Assyria became very powerful under King Tiglath-Pileser. Okay, say that with me. Tiglath-Pileser. Okay, the third. The Assyrians conquered a land area greater than any people had ever ruled before. Soon, Assyria controlled nearly all of the Fertile Crescent, part of Asia Minor, and the land of Egypt. The very name of the Assyrians brought fear to the people in Mesopotamia. Even the Egyptians sought to keep the Assyrians happy by sending tribute money to the Assyrian kings. Say that again with me. Tribute money. Why? Assyrian soldiers were fierce and brutal. They not only set out to conquer nations, but they destroyed them as well. They burned cities and tortured or killed men, women, and children. They uprooted entire populations and moved them to other cities. So guys, tribute money, they didn't really describe to you what tribute money is, but tribute money is money that you pay to somebody who has a greater power than you in order to not get in trouble or to stay in good graces with them. Okay, we are now down here. The Assyrian army was heavily right down here. Okay, the Assyrian army was heavily armed. Soldiers wearing iron helmets and armor drove fast-moving chariots. Their iron weapons were sharper than the bronze ones used by their opponents. The conquered people, too terrified to fight back, were expected to send tribute to their Assyrian kings. The conquest of Israel. Did you say that with me? The conquest of Israel. The Assyrians conquered the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom of Israel, whose people had fallen into great wickedness. They carried the 10 tribes away to scattered parts of the empire, and the northern tribes never returned to their land. The defeat of Sennacherib. Say that again with me. The defeat of Sennacherib. 20 years later, the Assyrian king Sennacherib attempted to destroy the 2 tribes of Judah. He boasted that the God of the Jews had no power to save them. The vast Assyrian army camped outside the walls of Jerusalem, holding the people in fear. But then, during the night, God sent his angel to kill 185,000 Assyrian soldiers. Sennacherib and the other survivors fled in shame to Nineveh, and Sennacherib was slain by his own sons. Okay, now we're at the bottom. The prophecy of Jonah, right here. So here is Sennacherib of Assyria, here in this picture. Okay, he's there in the center as the king. All right. The prophecy of Jonah. God sent the Jewish prophet Jonah to warn the wicked city of Nineveh that he was going to judge them. For a while, the people of Nineveh repented and believed in God. Eventually, however, the Assyrians resumed their wicked ways. Meanwhile, the Assyrian Empire had grown so large that it became difficult for the rulers to control the people. As God had prophesied in the book of Nahum, Nineveh and many other Assyrian cities were destroyed by the Babylonians. Okay, so remember in our map, Assyria is at the top and Babylon is down below. And now we are going to see the rise of the Babylonian Empire. Okay, say this with me. 3.9, the Babylonian Empire, Babylon. All right, I'm going to start right here. Be ready to say all these bold words with me, okay? In the middle of Mesopotamia, on the banks of the Euphrates River, stood the very ancient city of Babylon. It was probably near the Tower of Babel had been built. The name Babylon came from Babel. Babylon was one of the chief cities of ancient days and was considered a world power. An important highway began in Babylon and led to many other cities. This highway played an important part in making Babylon a center for world trade. The large city of Babylon was built from bricks made of clay. The whole city was surrounded by thick walls built apart from each other. The double walls provided an extra measure of protection from enemies. If enemies were able to get over one wall, they would get trapped between the walls. On top, so let me explain. There's one wall here in the city, okay? And then they built another wall right outside, and then the outside of the city. So if the people running away from inside the city were to get over the wall, they would get stuck in between the two walls, and the guards on top of the walls would be able to shoot arrows and stuff down at them. Okay? And each wall was so big that you could drive a car on top. Okay. As an added protection, a large moat fed by the waters of the Euphrates River was built around the entire outer wall of the city. So, wow, they've got the city of Babylon, wall number 1, wall number 2, guards on each wall, so big that a car can drive on each wall. And then on the outside wall, there's water. Okay, it's a moat. It's another type of protection. 100, we're right here. 100 bronze-plated gates with iron bars were set in the walls. Babylon was a planned city. Its streets were well laid out, with a wide street or highway passing through the middle of the city. Lining the streets were well-built houses, 3 and 4 stories high. Okay. The city of Babylon was divided into 2 sections by the Euphrates River. A bridge was built across the river, and a tunnel was built under it to connect the 2 sections of the city. Thus, there were 2 ways of crossing the Euphrates in ancient Babylon: over it or under it. What? How cool is that? I can't believe they built a tunnel underneath the river. That is amazing. Okay, we're right here. Ready? Say it with me. This is where you need to start a new section in your notes. The First Babylonian Empire. Babylonia was the region around and including the city of Babylon. One of the great leaders of Babylonia was Hammurabi. Do you remember Hammurabi? About 3,700 years ago, before the Israelites went down to Egypt, Hammurabi ruled Babylon. This was about 1,700 years before the birth of Christ. Hammurabi ruled for 43 years. Hammurabi conquered the cities around Babylon and placed them under his rule. His empire is known as the First Babylonian Empire. Did you say that out loud with me? It's bold. Ready? The First Babylonian Empire. He also gathered the laws of the land and put them in order and commanded that the laws be written on columns of black stone. This set of law became known as the Code of Hammurabi. So this big black stone, this is where all the laws are written down right here, and it's called the Law of Hammurabi. Remember the Law of Hammurabi? It contained nearly 300 laws that governed the everyday life of the Babylonians. There were laws about marriage, business, and farming. Not everyone was dealt with in the same manner. A slave received a different punishment than from a free man for the same crime. So it wasn't always fair. Okay, next section. Ready? The New Babylonian Empire. About 200 years after Hammurabi, the First Babylonian Empire fell and Babylon was destroyed. 1,000 years after Hammurabi, Babylon was rebuilt and became God's instrument for the destruction of the wicked Assyrian Empire and for the punishment of the people of Judah. As discontent grew among the Assyrians, that means as they became more and more upset with each other, the Chaldeans from southern Mesopotamia, around the site of Ur, were establishing themselves at the site of Old Babylon, under the leadership of King Nabopolassar. Man, that's hard for me even to say. Let's say that word together. Ready? King Nabopolassar. One more time. King Nabopolassar. The Chaldeans, with help from the Medes and the Scythians, overgrew the Assyrian Empire and established the Second or New Babylonian Empire. The King Nabopolassar, say that again with me, King Nabopolassar, who ruled from 625 to 605 BC, rebuilt the city of Babylon. When he died, his own son, Nebuchadnezzar II, became king. He continued the rebuilding of Babylon that his father had started. Read this last sentence with me. Ready? Begin. His hope was to make Babylon the most beautiful city in the world. Wow. Okay, we have one more section, and it's this top part. Ready? All right, here's a new section for your notes. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. This is a picture of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, so you can kind of look at it as we read, but please be ready to take notes as well, okay? If you don't get all of the important things written down during this video, you can always go back and rewatch the video or figure it out on your own after the video. Okay, are you ready? King Nebuchadnezzar ruled around 600 BC. One of his many wives came from the mountains. Babylon, remember his wife from Persia? Babylon is flat and dry, quite different from the mountains where she had grown up in Persia. It is said that she missed the beautiful mountains so much that Nebuchadnezzar decided to build high terraced gardens to remind her of her old home. The gardens were planted on a square that rested 75 feet above the ground on pillars. The square was then covered with soil that was built to wide steps or terraces. Each step was a little smaller than the one below it. A waterfall was built into the terraces. Men worked constantly to carry water from the Euphrates River up to the gardens. Trees, vines, flowers, some of which were brought from other countries, were planted on the terraces. To the people standing in the city streets, the beautiful gardens looked as if they were hanging in the air. The hanging gardens looked so beautiful that the Greeks listed them among the, say this with me, the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Wow, good job, guys. Okay, now your homework today is to send me an audio. 2 things that you still don't understand, I think. Let me double check really fast. Two things that you did not understand in the video. If you did understand everything in the video, you still need to send me a voice note telling me your favorite part of today's lesson, okay? I have just one question for you. What city was the capital of the Assyrian Empire? Make sure you answer this question in your audio. What city was the capital of the Assyrian Empire? All right, that's it for today. Bye. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.